Donald Trump's promises. A piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, a corn tortilla, and I have questions. Welcome to Law and Society. Please remember to subscribe. Let's talk about Donald Trump's promises and the questions that not only all of us, but especially Donald Trump's own base should be asking Donald Trump. And those are basic questions about what Donald Trump has been doing for the last year that does not fit into his campaign promises and goes far beyond being a steward of the American experiment and the enforcement arm of our government. So ask these questions of Donald Trump. First, why the heck did you destroy the East Wing of the White House? Why did you destroy the Rose Garden? Why did you destroy and renovate the Lincoln bathroom? Where did you get the approval from? Who authorized you to build the ballroom in the White House complex? What gives you the right to try to rewrite January 6th? There's nothing that will change the history of what happened on January 6, 2021. So why are you still trying to rewrite that history? Why did you pardon violent rioters who assaulted police officers? Why have you unleashed ICE on American cities while telling Iranians to keep protesting, promising them to help? What help? What have you provided them despite the fact that you said you were going to help and thousands have already died? Why are you playing with people's lives both at home and abroad? Why are you threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act and send in the U.S. military to Minnesota and possibly other parts of the country? Why are you putting military battalions on standby with the intention of deploying our military to our cities? There is no insurrection, no conspiracy, no assemblage against the federal government. States are already facilitating federal requests by creating a police line between peaceful protesters and ICE agents doing their federal functions, whatever they may be, however unconstitutional their actions may be. What states are pushing back against is ICE brutality towards peaceful protesters and legal observers. So why are you waging war against the various states? Keep asking, where are the Epstein files? We know that Clinton is in the files, and Clinton has come out and said to release all the information about him in the files. So we know it's not really about Bill Clinton. We know that Trump has denied being in the files, and DOJ's own releases have proven that to be a falsity. But it isn't about Trump either. This is about the survivors, about them being heard, them being believed, them getting accountability and the closure that they deserve. This is about a promise that you, Donald Trump, made to your voters while campaigning. So Donald Trump's voters should be asking that question and pushing for the release of the Epstein files. They should be asking, why has the cost of living not gone down? Why are you imposing more and more tariffs? Tariffs on EU? On our biggest trade partner? Why? Why are you telling us how many things we should buy and how much we should eat in order to save money? Your job is to bring down the cost of living, not tell us to spend less money. Trade wars are happening because of the tariffs, and that is the primary reason. And economists have come out and said that, and it's not Biden economics that's causing it. Why are you blaming Biden a year after you started your economic policies? Why are you lying about Biden when multiple economic independent sources called Biden's economy the envy of the world with a 0% chance of recession? And within a year, why are we at recession's door? Your own Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said that we were in a recession. Economists are saying that we are in a jobs recession and a stagflation. Inflation is going up, jobs are drying up, and wages are stagnating, reducing our buying power and commerce among the regular people of America? What will happen if SCOTUS rules against you, Donald Trump, on the tariffs? You're likely going to find a way to tariff again through another statute, and that'll probably be litigated again. And it will create an unforeseeable mess when it comes to reimbursements if SCOTUS invalidates the IEEPA tariffs. And that's what SCOTUS should do. But SCOTUS could also bend over backwards and say that Donald Trump does have the power to tariff under IEEPA. And that would flip the law on its head and pit the Supreme Court against Congress's power to make law. Why is the cost of healthcare going up, Donald Trump? Why did the Senate block the Affordable Care Act extensions? What healthcare plan are you offering the people now that the Affordable Care Act is gone? Why does your healthcare plan not offer specifics like subsidies and the process of how that would happen or any protection for pre-existing conditions? Why does your big bad bill cut Medicaid funding and SNAP funding? Why are you cutting over $1 trillion from Medicaid over 10 years? Why are you cutting SNAP funding by over $176 billion? Why are you telling us to start being on austerity diets of a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, a corn tortilla, and one other thing to save money? That's not what your job is. Again, your job is to lower the cost of living, not tell us how to spend our money and what to eat. How is it going to help Americans most in need to be saying and doing these things? Why is ICE murdering and shooting Americans in the name of immigration? ICE is for immigration enforcement, nothing else. So why is ICE shooting Americans to death, shooting them in the leg, shooting 5 shots at them, pepper spraying them, shooting them with rubber bullets? Why is there a 4-to-1 ratio of federal agents to local law enforcement in Minnesota? What is this national security issue? Why are you inciting unrest in the cities, thereby trying to create security issues? Why are you invading our states and cities and promising retribution? Retribution against whom and for what? Against a governor or against the citizens of Minnesota who rejected you 3 times in your elections? Is it about targeting Somali Americans, or is it retribution against Ilhan Omar and the fact that Minnesota rejected you 3 times despite the fact that you lie and say that you won Minnesota? You never won Minnesota. What happened to bringing peace to Ukraine and stopping Russia? Why did you change your national security strategy? Why is Russia still attacking Ukraine's civilians when you said you would end the war on day 1? What happened to the promise that America would not get into new wars? What's Venezuela about? There is an armada outside in the waters of Venezuela, and what's it about? And it's about oil, it's about destabilizing, it's about distracting, it's about creating spheres of power. How is that stabilizing the national interest and the global order? Where's due process of law for those who died when US bombed those boats? What is your Iran obsession about? What about Nigeria bombing? Why are you going after Greenland if not to take a sledgehammer to the NATO alliance and fracture that bond? Denmark is one of America's strongest and oldest allies, and you're going after Greenland, which is an autonomous part of Denmark. How does this make America great? How is this America first? How is this in our national interest to antagonize the world against us? How is it in our national interest to destroy NATO? How is it in our national interest to start trade wars with the EU? Why are you talking about restarting nuclear tests and opening up the world to a new nuclear arms race where it's inevitable that, or at least it exponentially increases the chance that there will be terrorists who will get their hands on dirty bombs, and there will be explosions of dirty bombs all around the world because of the nuclear arms race that you want to jumpstart all over again? Why are you cutting EPA regulations so as to poison the air and the water for future generations? Why are you changing vaccine recommendations that have long been kept on the record and followed by doctors and the American people, and has eradicated diseases like measles and hepatitis B, but now they are coming back, and there have been outbreaks exponentially more than there were in the last years? Why are you cutting education funding? Why are you cutting healthcare funding? Where is the farmers' relief package? Have you paid them yet? They still have not been reimbursed for the money that they spent on their upgrading their farms. So when are you going to bail them out? You haven't done that either. Where are, by the way, the tariff relief checks, the surplus checks that you were talking about? Why isn't the cost of medicine coming down 600% like you promised? If there's so much fraud that you're cleaning up, where are the prosecutions? Other than prosecutions and investigations against your political and ideological opponents based on animus and vindictive prosecution and retribution, where are the fraud lawsuits? If there's so much waste that you're curtailing, why does the federal debt keep going up? Where are the tax cuts you promised for regular people? Why did you sabotage the manufacturing industry that was creating jobs just because they were building renewable energy tech? What's your obsession against renewable tech when the world is adopting wind and solar power every single day with new technology? Why are you not embracing the future and doubling down on the past? Why are you using the office of the president to enrich yourself, your children, your friends, and their children? Why are you telling us to stop demonstrating our constitutional right to peaceably assemble? Why are you telling us to not do that? Why are you blocking investigations into crimes committed by ICE and DHS? Why is the DOJ blocking investigations of federal agents who commit murder in broad daylight? I'm sure I have more questions. And these are questions that I think Trump's own voters should be asking Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has veered far, far away from his campaign promises. And not only has he not kept their promises, he has gone against them, especially when it comes to the cost of living. But somehow he has sidestepped all these questions, and hasn't occurred to his manic base that Donald is robbing them blind while feeding them lies. So keep asking these questions. Don't stop. Keep pushing. And when MAGA says he's keeping his promises, ask him which promises he's keeping. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon.